It is nice and oniony, perfect to garnish any meal that you're doing, and you can grow it right here in your backyard to save yourself a lot of money. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, thank you so very much for making it for this video. I'm so glad that you're here because we're going to be continuing with our series on growing seasoning plants in your garden and seeing how easy it is to have your own seasoning garden. That way you can save a lot of money in the market, because as we said, season is something that you buy year round, and for the majority of people, especially if you live in Trinidad, we like to have it fresh. Even though you can freeze it, you can have it dry, save some money that way. If you grow it fresh, then that you're going to be able to have it all the time, and you're not going to have to pay the prices when the prices are very high. Last week we of course started with what I said was my most important, my favorite seasoning plant, bandinia, also known as shadow benny, also known as culantro. And this week we're going to go into something that has to take a second place. Everything in my garden will take a second place with bandinia because that is the most important one for me, but we do have others, and I'm sure a lot of you love this as well. Today we're going to be talking about chive, and you can already see just how easy it is to grow chive in your garden, because this is pretty much a handful of soil and we have chive growing in this. And one chive, there comes a time in the year when one chive could cost you as much as $10 for just one chive. Now I think you can get maybe a little bundle of chive for $5-6, and that's really good. But coming down to Diwali time, Christmas time, the price goes up very high. So it's worth taking the time to learn to grow chive. Now, I will start off by telling you that if you have bought seasoning this past weekend here, you went to the market, you got some seasoning, you already have plants. So you're already ahead of the game because you can go and start planting your chive right now. What you can do, and what I recommend that you do if you already have chive in your kitchen, in your fridge, you can cut out the plant just about 2 inches above the root, where the root system is, and you already have something that you can plant. And that is going to be my very first tip. Use what you already have with chive. Chive grows very easily. This chive here, I grew it from a plant that we had bought and that we had in the fridge, and we use the tops, we use it, and then we use the bottom here to plant it, and we have chive that I have an entire new one over here. My second tip when it comes to growing chive is that you don't harvest the entire thing when it's time to harvest. Now of course, if you're selling, then you have to sell the entire thing because people are going to want the entire plant. But when you are using it, you can just, if I were cutting this here, I would cut it very high. I would probably leave about 3 inches, and I would cut it about here. And the chive behind me that you can see in my DIY PVC planter, these chive, if you look back, I'll put a link if I can right up here, and that will be to my harvest video, because I harvested chive from these chive right here in my planter, and within 2 weeks they bounce all the way back and they're back with more chive for me to pick. So that way you're creating a cycle. And if you of course started out with plants that you already had, you can start a cycle where you're growing chive without paying any money, and then you can have more and more chive and you save more and more money. And I'll tell you, chive is something that I buy specifically for videos whenever I want to do demonstrations. Like for instance in this video here, I need to show you all how you can cut out the root. But in general, and also I do buy it to kind of monitor the price, but in general I use chive from my garden. A lot of people think that you save the majority of your money growing tomatoes, cucumber, cauliflower, cabbage. Yes, I do save a lot of money that way, but I feel like the majority of money that I save comes from saving on seasoning, on not having to buy seasoning, because seasoning is the one consistent thing in your garden. You may not always be eating tomatoes or cabbage or cauliflower all the time, but every single day we will use seasoning. 3 times a day we'll use seasoning. So chive is one of these seasonings that we use all the time. Now my third tip when it comes to growing chive, and this is very important, is the type of soil that you use. Because last week when I was talking about bandinia, I told you all that bandinia will grow in pretty much any kind of soil, and it goes somewhat the same for chive. But chive, unlike bandinia, last week when I showed you all the bandinia, I showed you all these massive huge clumpy roots that bandinia can form. Chive doesn't have that luxury. So when you are growing your chive, I would recommend that whatever soil that you have, now it will not be too picky. A lot of these seasonings, they're not very picky, but in the soil, what you can do to just help lighten the soil, especially if you're using kind of thick clay garden soil, is just going to the agri shop and asking for ProMix. Um, ProMix is going to help you with lightening the soil mixture that you have, because clay and what we can normally get from the garden, which is what I recommend. You don't go and buy too much of soil. You can use that and just get a $20 bag of ProMix. You can normally get it for around that, and they will know what you're talking about by ProMix. And it's just a mixture with some peat moss, vermiculite, perlite, a bit of limestone inside there. No real nutrients at all, no big set of nutrition in ProMix, but it does have a good mixture, a good organic composition there, that if you were to mix that into your soil, it would help lighten the soil itself, because these Chive, and it goes the same also for celery. I'll mention this when I do the celery video as well. Their roots are kind of hairy, like just like little hairs, like little fibers, so they aren't able to paste down into that hard dirt that you would get more abandoned. That isn't entirely impossible, but I think that Chive will sometimes not do very good. And very often, if you see your Chive growing up really, really stringy, really, really thin, and it's already growing up like nice and thick, like you see how nice and thick these scapes are, then you would want to check on your soil, because it could be a situation where your soil isn't very, very conducive to growing the tiny roots that Chive has, and that will produce the nice big blades that you'd like to get. Now, talking about big blades, before I forget, there are different types of Chive that you can get in Trinidad. Normally, the ones that get really, really huge, they call it blue Chive, and you have to get specific plants for that. And I do find that that specific type of Chive, one, it's hard to get because people like to see these big, massive blades. So the people that grow it in the nurseries, in the greenhouses, they will generally do it by orders because it's in such big demand. But two, I generally find that I am not a huge fan of the big blue Chive. I find that Chive that is really, really huge, really, really wide, it's not very powerful. Like, it's when you put it in your food, like I find like you don't get too much of that nice oniony taste. And Chive is a family to onion, family to bunching onions and all of that. And that's why I call it scapes, because an onion will send up scapes. Which is something you can grow in Trinidad if you ever want to plant your onions. I don't know how much you'll get an actual onion head, but you can plant the onion root system, and you would get some green tops growing up like this, and it will be nice and oniony. We call it scapes. So they're all related, but these thinner Chive, they generally are, for me, about 5 times more powerful than that blue Chive. So quality over quantity is what I always say, and it's something that I would recommend, that you just get the regular schmegular Chive, and you'll use less and you'll have to grow less, and it will save you more by using this type of Chive here. Third tip for Chive is regarding watering. When you are watering your Chive, you need to keep it nice and moist. Firstly, that's why we're going to use something that's organic rich in our soil. You put in your mixture there of your ProMix, and you put that into your soil. You can mix in as well some worm castings, and you can have just that organic matter that will hold on to the moisture. You can use some homemade compost as well. That's going to help out with your Chive, and it's also going to help with lightening and fluffying up that soil for you. But when you do water, you want to make sure to keep it nice and moist, because Chive is not like Banania, that likes, or not likes, but it can tolerate drought conditions, and it will not do very well if it is too moist. Chive prefers a bit of that moisture, so you're going to want to make sure you're watering your Chive every day, every 2 days. Come in, touch the soil, feel the soil, put your finger down in the soil, just make sure that you're feeling moisture. And once you are feeling that it's drying out, then water the Chive. Make sure your Chive is nice and watered, not overly watered, and especially if you're growing it in a container, you want to make sure you have some drainage holes. These drainage holes here aren't very pretty. In fact, I think I just took my nippers, my garden shears, and I just like stabbed in some holes, because this container here is so easy to cut through. But you want to make sure that you do have drainage, because you don't want it to be waterlogged, and not being able to breathe, because that's what waterlog does, and that's why things will have root rot, because water can't pass through. It's because roots need to breathe. They're just like us. We need to breathe. Pretty much any living thing more or less needs to breathe, and pockets of air, tiny spaces of air, will become flooded if you don't have drainage. So the water will take up all of that air pocket, all of the space, and then there is no room for oxygen and all of the gases that are needed. So the plant will suffer, and that will cause it to go anaerobic, and that situation is terrible because that's where your roots are going to start to rot, and bad bacteria are going to come in and they're going to destroy your roots. So it's a plant just like anything else. You don't just plant it in a hole. You make sure and have some drainage. You make sure and you put it on the side as well. So I have it over there. Even over here I have drainage on the PVC planter because it's just really important to have drainage for your side. And the last step, very very important. I brought you all closer because I didn't even realize my camera mic just died and the battery just died. I don't have enough time to go and charge it and come back because it's going to start getting dark soon. So we're going to finish like this. Hopefully you all can hear me. But my last step, the most important, I think that is a big difference between your bandania and your side, is fertilize. You really need to fertilize your side. Side doesn't just grow as easily as bandania does. So last week in my video on bandania shadow lining, I told you not to worry too much about fertilization. Even though you can, it's not against law to do it. Chive definitely benefits from having a bit of fertilizer in it, and that's in the form of your worm castings, your animal manure. You can make sure your worm tea, you can make sure and put that into your soil when you're planting it in. So like inside here I have some worm castings. I think that's all that I have. Actually I'm not sure now that I had actually put some worm castings in this, but the soil itself had been fairly good, nice and light as well, so probably not. But in general I do recommend that you fertilize this bandania, not this bandania, this side. Yeah, my mind is on bandania because that's my most favorite seasoning. This side here, I think I fertilized it probably last week, and I would have fertilized it again maybe 3 weeks before that. Very very important, and especially because the type of side that we're trying to grow, the technique that we're doing is not just like a market person will grow side and then pull it out and sell it. We will be cutting the side maybe just about here. I would cut it probably for this one here. I do recommend you leave about a good 3 inches on it, and that makes it easier for it to bounce back. So I would say that especially when you're cutting it, fertilize, because the plant is going to go through some bit of stress because we put it through stress by harvesting from it. We took away some nutrition from the soil, so let's replenish it. And that's a good principle, especially in organic garden, where you're not just taking stuff from the soil and taking it away, because energy is used to grow that crop, and then you take the crop and you move it away from the soil that grew it. So the soil has gotten a bit depleted, not massively depleted by any means, but if you keep on fertilizing every time that you take something from the soil in a way that's organic, that's slowly going to break down and enrich the soil, encourage microorganisms and whatnot to just be able to replenish the energy and the life in your soil. Life is the key. Then you're going to be in a better way come next time that you want to use this soil again when you're planting something new in the future. So take care of your soil and take care of your side by replenishing the soil with some fertilizer, some cow manure, some chicken manure. Make sure it's well cured. Again, if you are using cow manure, minimum for me, minimum 3 months for it to be cured, and chicken manure, minimum 5 to 6 months. Maximum I push that to almost a year for chicken manure because it gets very very hot and stays very hot for very very long. For cow manure, not as bad, doesn't stay as hot for as long, but still let it cure. And that's how easy it is. I'm so happy that you stuck around for this entire video. I'm just really happy that we're on this journey now, learning about growing seasonal garden, just to be able to reduce that food bill, reduce your market bill, but more importantly to just provide for yourself and your family, so you're not dependent so much on the grid as you normally would be, because you have stuff right in your garden that you can use, and you can harvest whenever you're ready to harvest and use that in your kitchen. And it's also going to help you to be a bit more responsible in terms of not emitting more pollution into the environment. It really has so many benefits by just having your home garden. So remember, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok and on Facebook to see more content coming in Trinidad Gardener's Garden, and feel free to tag us and send us your wonderful pictures and videos. We're so happy, and it's such an encouragement to see you all in your garden just doing your thing, spending time with yourself, with your family and with your friends. Remember, as always, this has been Dylan from the Trinidad Gardener channel, reminding you to get up and get growing. Take care.